Centuries ago, the blue planet called Earth was not the cold, lifeless rock it is today. It was full of green forests, vast oceans, and bustling cities filled with people. But humanity's carelessness finally caught up with them. The air became too dirty to breathe, the seas rose higher than ever before, and crops stopped growing. Leaders around the world knew they had no choice but to leave. They built massive colony ships, giant vessels that could carry thousands of people and everything needed to start over on another planet. Among those chosen for this historic journey was Daniel Carter, a calm and practical engineer who had spent years working on the colony ships. His wife, Laura Bennett, was equally important to the mission. She was a biologist with dreams of finding a new home where life could thrive again. Together, they boarded one of the many ships, leaving behind the only world they had ever known. The fleet of ships moved slowly through space, their engines glowing faintly against the dark void. For years, they traveled without incident, passing by stars and planets that couldn't support life. People began to grow restless. Some wondered if they would ever find a place to call home. Others worried about what might happen if something went wrong with the ships. Despite these fears, there was a sense of hope. Humanity had survived its mistakes once. Surely, they could do it again. But then, something unexpected happened. As the fleet approached the edge of known space, a region beyond which no human had ever ventured, they encountered an object unlike anything anyone had seen before. It was enormous, shaped like a sphere, and covered in strange patterns that seemed to shift and change when looked at directly. The artifact floated silently, as if waiting for them. Daniel was among the first to examine it closely. He suited up and stepped outside the ship, his boots clicking softly against the metal hull as he made his way toward the mysterious object. Through his helmet's visor, he could see the swirling patterns more clearly. They almost seemed alive, pulsing faintly with light. "It's beautiful," he whispered into his communicator, though no one responded. Everyone back on the ship was watching nervously. Before anyone could decide what to do next, the artifact emitted a sudden pulse of energy. It wasn't harmful, but it knocked out all communications instantly. Every ship in the fleet lost contact with each other and with Earth, or what remained of it. Panic spread quickly. Were they under attack? Had they stumbled upon some ancient weapon left behind by an alien civilization? Laura tried to stay calm. She gathered her notes and began analyzing data from the ship's sensors. What she found puzzled her even more. The pulse hadn't just disrupted their systems. It had also uploaded something into the ship's computers. Lines of code appeared on screens throughout the vessel, written in a language no one recognized. At first, it seemed random, but as Laura studied it further, she realized it was structured almost like instructions. Meanwhile, Daniel returned to the ship, shaken but unharmed. "We need to figure out what that thing is," he said firmly. "If it can disable our comms, who knows what else it's capable of." As days turned into weeks, the fleet continued onward, now quieter and more cautious. The artifact drifted alongside them, always just out of reach. No one dared to approach it again, but neither could they ignore it. Something about it felt important, like it held answers to questions humanity hadn't even thought to ask yet. Little did they know, this encounter would change the course of their journey, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy itself. Generations passed, and the descendants of those who had left Earth behind found themselves living on a new world. This planet, named Elysium Prime, was unlike anything their ancestors could have imagined. Its skies shimmered with two suns, casting golden light over rolling hills and crystal-clear lakes. The air was clean, the soil fertile, and for the first time in centuries, humanity felt safe. They built cities that blended technology with nature, creating a society where everyone had enough to live comfortably. Rachel Monroe grew up in one of these cities. She was a curious young woman with a sharp mind and an endless fascination for the stars. As an astrophysicist, she spent most of her days studying the night sky, searching for signs of other civilizations. Her colleague, Ethan Blake, often joined her in this work. Once a soldier, Ethan had turned away from conflict after witnessing too much destruction during his youth. Now, he worked as a strategist, helping the Council make decisions about how humanity should interact with the universe beyond Elysium Prime. Despite the peace they enjoyed, tension simmered beneath the surface. Not everyone agreed on what humanity's future should look like. Some believed it was time to reach out to other species to share knowledge, trade resources, and perhaps even form alliances. These people called themselves Others, known as isolationists, argued that humanity had survived so far because it stayed apart from the rest of the galaxy. They feared that contact with aliens might lead to war, or worse. One evening, while analyzing data from a distant star system, Rachel noticed something unusual. A faint signal, barely detectable, pulsed rhythmically through space. At first, she thought it might be interference from the equipment, but further investigation proved otherwise. The signal was artificial proof that someone, or something, was trying to communicate. Excited yet cautious, Rachel shared her findings with Ethan. "This changes everything," Ethan said, staring at the readings on Rachel's screen. "If there are others out there watching us, we need to know why." Rachel nodded. "What if they've been waiting for us to notice them? Or what if they're afraid of us?" The discovery sparked debates across Elysium Prime. The saw it as proof that humanity wasn't alone and pushed harder for exploration. The isolationists, however, grew more fearful. They pointed to stories passed down from their ancestor, stories of an ancient artifact that had once disabled the fleet's communication systems. Could this signal be connected to that artifact? Was it a warning? As the arguments raged on, Rachel and Ethan decided to investigate further. Using advanced telescopes, they pinpointed the source of the signal, a cluster of planets orbiting a dying star. What they saw next sent chills down their spines. Alien ships, sleek and metallic, drifted silently around one of the planets. These ships were clearly not human-made, and their presence suggested that whoever sent the signal was highly advanced. Word of the alien ships spread quickly, and panic began to rise among the population. Stores emptied as people stockpiled supplies, fearing the worst. But Rachel refused to give in to fear. She reminded everyone that the signal wasn't aggressive. It was simply there, like a beacon. "Maybe they're not enemies," she told the Council. "Maybe they're just watching." Ethan agreed. "We won't know unless we try to understand them. Ignoring this won't make it go away." Their words calmed some, but many still doubted. Meanwhile, whispers of an even greater threat began to circulate. Stories spoke of something lurking in deep space, something older and far more dangerous than any alien race. Whether these tales were true or merely paranoia remained unclear. But one thing was certain: humanity's quiet life on Elysium Prime was coming to an end. As Rachel gazed up at the twin suns setting over the horizon, she couldn't shake the feeling that their ancestors' journey had only been the beginning. Whatever awaited them out there, it would test them in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Rachel and Ethan spent countless nights studying the alien ships they had discovered. The vessels were unlike anything humanity had ever built, smooth, dark, and almost invisible against the blackness of space. They didn't move much, but when they did, it was with a precision that suggested advanced technology. Every movement seemed deliberate, as though the beings inside were observing Elysium Prime carefully. The Council met repeatedly to discuss what should be done. Some members argued for sending a message back, while others insisted on staying silent. "If we respond," said one isolationist leader, "we risk drawing attention to ourselves. What if they see us as a threat?" But Rachel countered, "What if they're already watching? Ignoring them won't make them go away." Ethan agreed with her. "We've been living under the assumption that we're alone out here. Now we know we're not. Pretending otherwise is dangerous." In the end, the Council decided to take a cautious approach. They authorized Rachel and Ethan to send a simple signal, a mathematical sequence based on prime numbers, a concept believed to be universal among intelligent species. It wasn't a full message, just a way of saying, "We're here, and we're aware of you." Days turned into weeks, and there was no response. Many began to think the aliens weren't interested, or perhaps hadn't even noticed. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the alien ships shifted slightly, its surface rippling like water, before settling into a new shape. Moments later, a faint reply came through a series of pulses, matching the pattern Rachel and Ethan had sent, but altered in a way that carried meaning. "They're responding," Rachel whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. She and Ethan worked tirelessly to decode the message. It wasn't written in words, but in patterns and symbols that hinted at intelligence far beyond human understanding. Slowly, they pieced together fragments of information. The aliens identified themselves as the Valari, a species that had existed long before humanity's ancestors first walked upright on Earth. But the Valari's message carried more than introductions. Buried within their reply was a warning. They spoke of a great danger lurking in deep space, something ancient and unstoppable. The Valari claimed they avoided contact with other species because of this threat, fearing it might use them as tools or targets. Their presence near Elysium Prime wasn't coincidence. They had been watching humanity since the days of the artifact. News of the warning spread quickly across the planet. Fear gripped many, especially those who had always distrusted outsiders. "This proves it," shouted an isolationist during a heated council meeting. "We can't trust anyone out there. They'll lead whatever's coming straight to us." Rachel tried to calm the rising panic. "The Valari aren't our enemies," she explained. "They're scared too. That's why they stayed hidden. If we work together, maybe we can face this threat." Ethan added his support. "We've survived so much already. Running won't save us now. We need answers, and the Valari might have them." Despite their efforts, fear continued to grow. Rumors spread about the artifact humanity had encountered centuries ago. Some believed it was connected to the danger the Valari warned about. Others thought it might hold the key to defending against it. Among these rumors was a name whispered often: Alex Carter, a young engineer descended from Daniel Carter, one of the original colonists. His family had kept records of the artifact's effects on the fleet's systems, and people began turning to him for answers. As tensions mounted, Rachel and Ethan realized time was running out. Whatever the Valari feared was real, and it was closer than anyone knew. Humanity's quiet life on Elysium Prime was over. The question now was whether they would face the unknown together, or fall apart before the true danger even arrived. Alex Carter had always been curious about his family's history. Growing up, he heard stories from his grandmother about the journey to Elysium Prime and the strange artifact that had followed humanity across the stars. She often spoke of her grandfather, Daniel Carter, who had examined the artifact closely and lived to tell the tale. But what fascinated Alex most were the old data logs, pieces of information stored in dusty archives aboard one of the colony ships. When rumors began spreading about the artifact being connected to the alien warning, Alex decided it was time to dig deeper. He requested access to the archives, which hadn't been touched in decades. The council hesitated at first, wary of stirring up old fears, but eventually granted him permission. What Alex found there would change everything. The logs contained fragmented records of experiments conducted shortly after the artifact emitted its mysterious pulse. Engineers and scientists had noticed subtle changes in the colony ship's systems, enhancements they couldn't explain. Engines ran more efficiently. Communication arrays processed signals faster than ever before. Even medical equipment showed improvements, curing illnesses thought incurable. At first, these changes seemed like blessings, but over time, some began to worry. Where had this knowledge come from? Was it really a gift, or something far more dangerous? As Alex sifted through the data, he stumbled upon something even stranger: encrypted files hidden deep within the system. It took days to decode them, but when he finally succeeded, he realized they contained messages written in an unfamiliar language. These weren't random symbols. They formed coherent sentences, though their meaning was cryptic. One phrase appeared repeatedly: "The Kelith created me." Alex didn't know who or what the Kelith were, but he sensed they were important. He reached out to Rachel and Ethan, hoping their expertise might help him understand. Together, they studied the files late into the night, piecing together clues. They discovered references to the Kelith as an ancient civilization, long extinct, known for their mastery of technology. According to the artifact's code, the Kelith had built it not just as a beacon, but as a test for intelligence, adaptability, and responsibility. Rachel frowned as she read the translations. If this is true, then the artifact wasn't just observing us. It was testing us, and maybe altering us. Ethan nodded slowly. That would explain why our tech improved so suddenly. But if the Kelith are gone, who's controlling it? Now, Alex hesitated before answering. What if no one is? What if the artifact itself is alive? The idea sent shivers down their spines. If the artifact was sentient, then humanity had unknowingly brought something powerful and potentially unpredictable into their new home. Worse still, Alex uncovered hints that the artifact's influence hadn't stopped with the colony ships. Fragments of its code lingered in modern systems, subtly shaping human technology even today. Word of Alex's findings leaked to the public, sparking both awe and terror. Some saw the artifact as proof that humanity was destined for greatness, guided by forces beyond comprehension. Others viewed it as a threat, a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Tensions between expansionists and isolationists reached a break-in point. While some argued that understanding the artifact was key to survival, others demanded its immediate destruction. Amid the chaos, Laura Bennett's journals resurfaced. Written centuries ago, they revealed her suspicions about the artifacts. "Nature, it feels alive," she had written. "Not in the way we think of life, but as if it exists on another level entirely. I fear we may have underestimated it." Reading those words, Alex felt a weight settle over him. Humanity had walked away from Earth, seeking a fresh start, only to carry the unknown with them. Now, faced with warnings from the Velari and the growing mystery of the artifact, Alex knew one thing for certain: the choices made next wouldn't just shape Elysium Prime, they would determine whether humanity survived at all. The debate over the artifact consumed Elysium Prime. Council meetings turned into shouting matches as expansionists and isolationists clashed over what to do next. The expansionists argued that the artifact was a gift, a tool left behind by an advanced civilization to help humanity grow stronger. They believed it could be used to protect Elysium Prime from whatever danger the Valerie had warned about. On the other hand, the isolationists saw it as a risk too great to take. "We don't know where it came from or what it wants," one of them said during a heated session. "For all we know, it's controlling us right now." Rachel and Ethan tried to mediate, but their voices often got lost in the noise. They knew the artifact was important, but they also understood the fear gripping so many people. Humanity had already faced enough challenges. The last thing they needed was another unknown force complicating their lives. Despite the chaos, Rachel made a bold decision. She proposed sending a probe toward the source of the alien signals, the same region where the Velari ships had been spotted. Her plan wasn't just to gather more information, but to establish direct contact. "If the Velari are watching us, they deserve answers," she told the council. "And if they're afraid of this greater danger, then maybe we can work together to face it." Ethan supported her idea, though he admitted privately that he wasn't sure how the Valerie would react. "What if they see the probe as a threat?" he asked Rachel late one night as they prepared the mission. "We're stepping into territory we don't fully understand. We have to try," Rachel replied firmly. Doing nothing is the real threat. With the Council's reluctant approval, the probe was launched. It carried no weapons, only sensors, and a recording device loaded with a message of peace. For days, everyone waited anxiously for results. Then, finally, the probe returned not with destruction, but with images and data that stunned everyone. The pictures showed sleek alien vessels, orbiting a massive structure floating near a dying star. The structure looked ancient, its surface covered in intricate carvings similar to those on the artifact. But what shocked everyone most were the symbols etched into the walls. Patterns identical to the ones Alex had found in the artifact's code. This confirmed what Rachel and Ethan had suspected. The artifact and the Valari were connected. Even more surprising was the message the probe brought back. It wasn't hostile, but it was urgent. The Valari identified themselves again and explained their role as observers of younger species. They revealed that the Kalitha, creators of the artifact, had once ruled vast portions of the galaxy before collapsing under the weight of their own ambition. Their experiments had unleashed something uncontrollable, self-replicating machines designed to consume entire planets for resources. These machines, known as the Harrow, had wiped out countless civilizations, including the Kelith themselves. The Valari warned that the Harrow still existed, dormant but not destroyed. They feared that humanity's advancements and, perhaps, even the artifact's influence might awaken them. Your kind stands at a crossroads, the message concluded. You must choose wisely, or you will share our fate. When the message reached the Council, silence fell over the room. Even the most vocal isolationists couldn't deny the gravity of the situation. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. It was fighting against forces far older and more powerful than anyone had imagined. As Rachel stared at the images of the Valari ships and the ancient structure, she felt a mix of awe and dread. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but it was also dangerous. If humanity wanted to survive, they would need allies and courage beyond anything they'd shown before.
Admiral Richard Kane stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from over 3,000 worlds had come to witness this moment. The great assembly hall of the Galactic Council had been expanded to hold them all. Today, they would decide humanity's fate. Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat at the translation station, working to convert human speech into the hundreds of languages spoken by the assembled aliens. Next to her, Dr. Marcus Webb documented every word of the proceedings. This would be the most important conversation in the history of two galaxies. The debate had been going on for 3 days. Admiral Kane had presented humanity's case with skill and passion. He had shown the aliens examples of human cooperation, creativity, and compassion. But the shadows of human history still loomed large over the proceedings. Council Leader Vel 9 called for order in the vast chamber. Her ancient voice carried the weight of 5 centuries of galactic leadership. We have heard testimony from all sides, Vel 9 announced. Now we must examine the complete evidence about the human species. Ambassador Zix-7 activated the great display system that dominated the center of the hall. Images from the Tau Ceti test appeared for all to see. The footage showed human ships arriving to help alien civilians under attack. The test results are undeniable, Zix-7 said. When humans believed innocent lives were at stake, they responded immediately. They asked no questions about politics or territory. They simply came to help. The assembly watched as the human fleet engaged the fake pirates. The aliens could see the deadly efficiency of human warfare. In minutes, the human ships had destroyed or disabled all the attacking vessels. But then the footage showed something that shocked many of the alien observers. The humans had immediately offered mercy to their defeated enemies. They had taken prisoners instead of executing them. They had begun rescue operations before the last weapon had been fired. Council member Ori 2 spoke from the crystalline section of the assembly. The humans fought with terrible precision, but they also showed unexpected restraint. This is not the behavior we have observed from previous predator species. The display showed Captain Sam Hughes making his final sacrifice. The alien audience watched in silence as the human commander chose to die saving alien civilians he had never met before. Ambassador Keth 5 of the Tau Ceti survivors stood to address the council. Keth 5 was one of the aliens who had participated in the test scenario. "I was there," Keth 5 said. "I saw how the humans treated us. They worked to save our people with the same desperation they would show for their own families. They shared their medical supplies and food without being asked. They asked for nothing in return." Commander Lix 4 of the Peaceful Worlds Alliance raised an objection. "But we cannot ignore the evidence of human history. They have fought over 500 major wars. They have created weapons that could destroy worlds. How can we trust them not to use these abilities against peaceful species?" Admiral Kane requested permission to respond. He stood slowly, feeling the weight of representing his entire species. "Commander Lix 4 raises valid concerns," Kane said. "Humans have indeed fought many wars. We have created terrible weapons. Our history is full of violence and conflict." Kane paused and looked around the assembly. Thousands of alien eyes were focused on him. "But human history also shows our capacity for change," Kane continued. "We have learned from our mistakes. We have created international laws to prevent war. We have built institutions to promote peace. We have chosen cooperation over conquest time and time again." Dr. Elena Rodriguez spoke up from her station. "If I may address the council," she said, "I have spent years studying the communication between your civilizations. What I have learned is that every species here developed differently than humans did." Elena activated her own display showing comparative evolution charts. "Your species evolved in environments that rewarded cooperation and peaceful behavior," Elena explained. "Humans evolved in an environment that required competition and aggression for survival. But we have transcended our origins." Council member Thex 9 drifted forward in its gaseous form. "How can we be certain that human aggression will not resurface? When you spread across the galaxy?" Commander Rachel Torres, representing the new generation of human space explorers, asked for permission to speak. Rachel was young but had already proven herself as a capable leader and diplomat. "Honored Council," Rachel said, "we propose a solution that addresses your concerns while giving humanity a chance to prove itself." Rachel activated a holographic display showing her proposal. "Humans will accept permanent alien observers in all our space operations," Rachel explained. "Representatives from the Galactic Council will be present on our ships and our colonies. They will have the authority to intervene if humans act aggressively toward other species." The proposal created a buzz of discussion throughout the assembly. No species had ever voluntarily accepted such oversight before. "In exchange," Rachel continued, "humans ask for gradual integration into galactic society. We will start with limited trade and cultural exchange. We will earn the right to greater participation through our actions, not our words." Ambassador Zix 7 found this proposal intriguing. "You would accept permanent monitoring of your species?" "Yes," Admiral Kane replied, "because we believe that human actions will speak louder than human words. We are willing to prove ourselves through deeds, not promises." Captain Dan Murphy, commanding the diplomatic vessel Hope, transmitted additional support for the proposal. "The monitoring system would protect both humans and aliens," he said. "If humans prove trustworthy, the oversight can be reduced over time. If not, it can be increased or terminated." Council Leader Vel 9 called for a recess to allow the representatives to consider this unprecedented proposal. The assembly hall buzzed with conversation as thousands of aliens discussed what they had heard. Dr. Marcus Webb worked with his recording equipment, making sure every word of the proceedings was preserved. This was the most important moment in human history, and he wanted future generations to understand exactly what had happened. When the council reconvened, the debate continued for hours. Some aliens argued that any predator species was too dangerous to trust. Others pointed to the Tau Ceti test results as proof that humans were different from previous aggressive species. The survivors from Tau Ceti spoke powerfully in favor of giving humans a chance. They described the compassion and sacrifice they had witnessed from human crews. As the debate continued, a pattern began to emerge. The younger alien species were more willing to trust humans. The older species, who remembered the devastation caused by previous predator civilizations, remained cautious. Finally, Council Leader Vel 9 called for the vote that would determine humanity's future. All in favor of accepting the human proposal for monitored integration, Vel 9 announced. The voting system lit up with thousands of responses. Each world cast its vote according to its own decision-making process. Some voted immediately. Others took time to consult with their home governments. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the vote count with her heart pounding. Green lights indicated votes in favor of humans. Red lights indicated votes against. Yellow lights showed abstentions. The counting took over an hour. When it was finished, the results were closer than anyone had expected. The proposal is accepted by a margin of 12 votes, Vel 9 announced. A collective exhale seemed to move. Through the human delegation, they had won, but barely. However, Vel 9 continued, the Council imposes additional conditions. Human expansion will be limited to uninhabited systems for the first 50 years. Any aggressive action by humans against other species will result in immediate termination of this agreement. Admiral Kane accepted the conditions without hesitation. The human government agrees to all terms, he said. As the Great Assembly began to disperse, Ambassador Zix-7 approached the human delegation. Admiral Kane, Zix-7 said, I voted in favor of your proposal, but I want you to understand the magnitude of what has happened here today. Kane nodded respectfully. For the first time in galactic history, Zix-7 continued, we have chosen to trust a predator species. We are betting the future of galactic civilization on the hope that humans can control their aggressive instincts. Kane felt the weight of that responsibility. We will not disappoint you, he said. I hope not, Zix-7 replied. Because if humans prove to be like the predator species that came before, the galaxy may not survive the mistake. As the human delegation, prepared to return to Earth, they carried with them the greatest prize in their species' history, the chance to join galactic civilization. But they also carried the greatest responsibility any species had ever been given, the future of thousands of worlds now depended on humanity's ability to prove that predators could choose to be protectors. The test was over. The real challenge was just beginning. Admiral Kane looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity was ready for the burden of proving that evolution did not have to determine destiny. Time would tell if the galaxy had made the right choice in trusting the humans. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun. Whether it would be remembered as the beginning of a golden age or the start of another dark period in galactic history remained to be seen. But for the first time since leaving Earth, humans were not alone among. Jake Martinez walked into the big council room on Nexus Prime. His black shoes made quiet sounds on the metal floor. Around him sat thousands of alien beings from across the galaxy. Some looked like giant bugs. Others were made of crystal or metal. A few floated in tanks of water. Jake had been Earth's voice in this place for 10 years. He had seen many fights and helped solve many problems, but today felt different. Today he carried news that would change everything. The huge room buzzed with strange sounds. Aliens talked in clicks, hums, and electronic beeps. Some spoke through. Machines that changed their words into sounds others could understand. The air smelled like chemicals and ozone from all the different life support systems. At the front of the room sat Speaker Vexa Thala. She was 20 feet tall and made of blue crystal that caught the light. Her kind had run the council for over 1,000 years. She looked down at Jake, like he was a small child. "Human ambassador," she said. Her voice rang like bells. "You have asked for this emergency meeting. Speak." Jake touched the datapad in his pocket. It held pictures and videos from the Kepler colonies. Dead humans, burned cities, ships broken in space. The Zephyrian Empire had attacked without warning 3 days ago. They killed 50,000 people and took the planets for themselves. Speaker Vexathala, Jake said. His voice carried to every corner of the room through hidden speakers. 3 days ago, the Zephyrian Empire attacked the Kepler colonies. These were peaceful worlds with families, farms, and schools. The Zephyrians killed innocent people and stole their homes. The room filled with noise. Some aliens clicked in anger. Others hummed in what might have been sadness. The Zephyrian delegate, a being that looked like a giant snake with arms, sat very still. Jake raised his hand. "I have proof. Videos from the attack. Records of communications. The Zephyrians broke 17 peace treaties and committed war crimes against civilians." He activated his datapad. The air above him filled with images. Burning buildings. People running for their lives. Children crying over dead parents. The room became quiet as the aliens watched. "This is why we need the Council," Jake continued. "This is why humans have fought and died to keep peace in this galaxy. We cannot let this crime go unpunished." Speaker Vexathala's crystal body flashed with different colors. This meant she was thinking hard. Around the room, other aliens whispered to each other in their strange languages. "The Council recognizes the tragedy at Kepler," she finally said. "However, we must consider all sides. The Zephyrian Empire claims the colonies were built on their ancient lands." Jake felt his heart beat faster. "Ancient lands? Speaker, those planets were empty rocks before humans came. We turned them into homes for families. The Zephyrians never even visited those systems until we built cities there." The snake-like Zephyrian delegate rose up. "My people have old claims to that space. We have rights that go back thousands of years." "Rights to empty space?" Jake asked. "Rights to kill children?" More noise filled the room. Some aliens seemed angry at the Zephyrians. Others looked unsure. Jake had seen this before. When crimes happened, the Council always found excuses to do nothing. For 300 years, humans had been the ones who actually fixed problems. When pirates attacked trade ships, human fleets stopped them. When diseases spread between worlds, human doctors found cures. When wars started, human soldiers ended them. But the Council always acted like they were in charge. They took credit for human work. They made rules that humans had to follow. And when humans asked for help, like now, they found reasons to say. Note Admiral Lisa Brooks watched from Earth through a video link. She was the head of all human military forces in space. Jake could see her face on a small screen to his left. She looked angry, but not surprised. For hours, the aliens talked and argued. They formed committees to study the problem. They suggested sending investigators to look at the destroyed colonies. They talked about economic penalties against the Zephyrians, but nobody talked about using force to stop future attacks. Nobody talked about making the Zephyrians pay for what they did. Nobody talked about justice for the dead humans. Finally, Speaker Vexathala called for a vote. The Council will impose trade restrictions on the Zephyrian Empire for 6 months. We will also send a team to investigate the events at Kepler. Jake stared at her. Trade restrictions? 50,000 people are dead and you want to limit their shopping? The Council has spoken, Vexathala said. This meeting is closed. Jake stood up slowly. Around him, aliens began to leave. They buzzed and hummed and clicked like nothing important had happened. Like human lives meant nothing to them. He walked to the communication booth and opened a channel to Earth. Admiral Brooks appeared on the screen, Behind her, he could see other military leaders and government officials. "How did it go?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "The same as always," Jake said. "They don't care about us. They never have." Admiral Brooks nodded. "Then it's time to make them understand what they're losing." Jake looked back at the council room. Aliens were still leaving, talking among themselves about dinner plans and trade deals. None of them seemed to remember the dead humans at Kepler. "Dough." "It," he said. Admiral Brooks smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Jake, you have one more speech to give. Make it count." The next day, Jake stood in the council room again. This time, he carried no data pad and no evidence. He just carried words that would shake the galaxy. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began. "For 300 years, humanity has served this organization. We have fought your wars, solved your problems, and asked only for fair treatment in return." The room was quiet. Something in Jake's voice made the aliens listen. "Yesterday, you showed us what our partnership means to you. Human lives are worth 6 months of trade restrictions. Human sacrifice means nothing compared to alien politics." Speaker Vexathala leaned forward. "Ambassador Martinez, what is the purpose of this speech?" Jake smiled. It was the same kind of smile Admiral Brooks had worn. "I'm here to deliver a message from the human government. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council." The room exploded with noise. Aliens shouted and clicked and hummed in shock. Some demanded explanations, others begged him to reconsider. But Jake was already walking toward the exit. He had said everything that needed to be said. "Good luck," he called over his shoulder. "You're going to need it."